Our focus today, the malnutrition situation in the northeastern part of the country, and we're being joined by the Senator, the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Senator Olanrewaju Tejuoso. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
The report by the United Nations is quite alarming. About 50,000 children are believed to be at the verge of starving to death by the end of this year. What's your take on this?
Well, it's a blessing for Nigeria that United Nations is actually waking us up, because before even the IDP problem started, Nigeria is known to be losing about 1,200 children daily due to malnutrition. If you calculate that, that's about 36,000 children dying every month in Nigeria on malnutrition issues.
1,200 daily.
Yes, that is
across the country.
Across the country.
Are there specific areas where this has been noted?
We have. If you go to all the hospitals in Nigeria, the federal hospitals, if you go to the pediatrics ward, you will see malnourished children all over. So it's from there that the statistics that is with the United Nations today, that is with Ministry of Health of Nigeria today, 1,200 children die daily, average, on malnutrition. What is happening in Borno State, in Yobe, in Adamawa, is just a kind of a blessing in disguise for us to actually do what is right for malnutrition in this country. Because even cause of death under 5 years, 53% is due to malnutrition. And meanwhile, it's least budgeted for. I mean, we just came in this year anyway, so the first budget, of course, was not done properly. Otherwise, we won't have just a meager 2.4 million naira for nutrition for this year.
2.4 million
just 2.4 million naira. I just came back from Kenya, and Nigeria had the least budget for malnutrition, for nutrition. I mean, it was so embarrassing, because they said we are the biggest country, but yet countries that don't have 1 over 1,000 of what we have, their budget is times 10 of what we had for this year.
When you talk about budget being not properly done, you had the opportunity to look through the budget of the Ministry of Health, and what was your input towards nutrition in it?
Well, first of all, one of the mistakes of this budget for 2016 is that we didn't have enough time, first of all. Then secondly, we expect the executives, the minister or the heads of parastatals to highlight the problems and also the reason for allocations in the budget. We didn't have enough time to really interview everybody. Okay, so, I mean, the most important things that they highlighted to us, like polio, for example, was well budgeted for. And, I mean, nobody mentioned nutrition during our interactions. So I guess it's a mistake on both sides, but at least we are learning.
Is it because nobody really noted that nutrition? Because when we talk about children under 5, we still have quite a high maternal mortality rate in Nigeria. Same thing with children mortality rate. But it's very rare that you get that malnutrition will be one of the causes identified. People usually think of it in terms of medical care rather than actually the nutrition that these children have while they're still at that age. Have we been able to identify very seriously that this 1,200 which we lose daily, which is a very high rate, have you been able to pinpoint malnutrition as being the cause?
First of all, malnutrition would reduce the immunity of a child. So that means the child will be more predisposed to have other ailments, will be more predisposed to have other diseases. The malnourished child will die earlier on a simple case as maybe pneumonia, for example, because he's malnourished. So if they are not malnourished, the incidences of other diseases will be very, very low. So malnourishment is the real issue to tackle, to ensure that any human being, at least, is not vulnerable to such diseases.
How do you think that one of the, because we're looking at children under 5 now, do you think that we should also be looking at the underlying causes? Why is it that families are not able to feed their children? Or why is it that these children will get malnourished in the first instances? Is this something that the Senate perhaps is looking towards?
Well, there has to be a lot of advocacy, a lot of information given out there, because there are some things that won't even cost money that is very important for nutrition. Something like breastfeeding, which is free. It is very, very important for the first 6 months of a baby. I mean, that is even breastfeeding, and we avoid giving water to the children at that time. It should be exclusive breastfeeding. All the nutrients that that baby needs is available in the mother's breast milk. But of course, we have to make a lot of noise about it for our people to understand the importance of breastfeeding. So, I mean, we spend so much money. If you go to the newspapers today, the first 6 pages, all the banks, advertising, people don't even read it anymore. So we're appealing to even the banks. Let us just have a quarter of that page for daily education, for our people to be able to know what is right to do, for us to reduce all these problems of nutrition. For example, the stunting rate in Nigeria is also very high. Stunting means the child, during the first 1,000 days, that is from inception in the mother's womb to when you are 2 years old. That time is very crucial for development of the child's brain. If they don't get the nutrition right during the first 2 years, the child, it is an irreversible damage to the brain.
So it means we're also talking about mother's nutrition as well.
Yes, of course.
Because, I mean, if a mother is supposed to be breastfeeding exclusively for the first 6 months, she must also get the right kind of nourishment.
Yes, of course.
So by extension, we're not just looking at children's nutrition, we're also looking at adult nutrition, especially that of women. How is it that we're going to tackle, it looks like a very complex problem?
Well, I mean, the mothers, of course, because the rate of maternal death is not as alarming as the under 5 death today. So it's not really being talked about as the children's death. So the children, the mothers too must be well nourished for them to be able to supply the necessary nutrients to the children. So, I mean, it's a combined effort that must be put in place.
Now, we've been talking nutrition and nourishment for some time now, but when you say nutrition, does it also mean the same thing as eating? Because some people get the food, but they don't get the nutrients.
Well, of course.
So is it enough to just provide food? Or what kind of foods are we talking about?
Well, because of the economic situation today, the issue of even having the food first is what is on the front burner. Okay, but of course we need to also educate our mothers, our women, on how the food must be cooked, for example. For example, today we have our beans because of the pesticides that are wrongly used today. We are supposed to even know how we cook the beans so that we get rid of the pesticides that come with the food, because they are carcinogenic, causes cancer. All right? But, because of the economic situation, I mean, we are just talking about let the food get to the table. But we still need to go further also to let them know how to make sure that food, the nutrients they need, and the type of food is also part of the advocacy that we need to continue to spend money on.
Let's step back a bit, back into the internally displaced persons camp. That's where the 50,000 are likely to die by the end of the year. They have relief materials that have been supplied to them. But what kind of relief materials would you say they should be looking at getting if they've not gotten them yet?
Well, I mean, of course, because hunger is what is the first reason for this nutrition issue now. So anything that is food, for now, will suffice, because, I mean, first of all, they must attack the hunger. Because when you're hungry, if you just see McDonald's, you see KFC, you see Sweet Sensation, you just want to eat something.
Have you been to any of the IDP camps?
Yes, I just went to my degree recently.
What did you see in terms of the relief materials they have as regards food?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first thing we see bags of rice, we see palm oil. I mean, the basic things for you to have a decent lunch is what we have there. But for children, we need what we call fortified nutrients, fortified food. Because there are some things in the food that must be there. Some vitamin A, for example. I mean, so that's what you mean by adding additional nutrients to the food, that specialized food. For example, we have what we call now RUTF, ready to eat therapeutic food. That is what the really acute malnourished child will need for quick response. That one is not produced in Nigeria. I think there's a company now trying to produce it, but everything is imported because I think the constituent is groundnut But the groundnut in Nigeria, coming from our farms, is not acceptable because it has a lot of toxins. So they have to even import, if they want to manufacture it in Nigeria today, you need to import the groundnut from maybe Brazil for it to be acceptable for our children.
It sounds strange. I mean, the groundnuts, even from our rural communities, contains toxins.
So
they are not good for us.
They are not good for the RUTF that is being donated by UNICEF today. UNICEF, I mean, last year, UNICEF took care of about 400,000 children. Malnourished children, acute malnourished children. Last year, 400,000, paid for by UNICEF. But all the products used for that treatment came from abroad because they couldn't buy it in Nigeria, which is something we need to also address with the Ministry of Agriculture in growing groundnuts that will be adequate for our local manufacturers here, so that all the RUTF being needed for the children every year, at least it will help our economy if we buy them in Nigeria.